Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent Makori and this is Africa 54. First tonight, the fight to recover from the devastation caused by Ebola. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon has convened an international Ebola recovery conference at the United Nations headquarters in New York. Another conference co-organized by the Ebola-affected countries of Guinea, Liberia and Sierra Leone seeks to raise $3.2 billion over the next 2 years to help fight to help the countries fully rebound from the crisis. Sierra Leone President Anspai Koroma, who is attending, urged the global community not to abandon his region, when he was speaking to VOA at the UN, and he said that there's no room for complacency in the fight against the Ebola virus.
And we are appealing to our people. They have showed great resilience, a great courage over the period. But until the Ebola is completely out, we will not stop. We have to continue this fight. And we'll encourage them to stay focused. It's been difficult for all of us, but that is where we find ourselves, and this is a battle we must not lose. Ebola has not isolated us as a region or as nations. We still have great potentials. We are still prepared to do business and are preparing to do business, and we are now receiving delegations, international delegations that are coming in to explore business opportunities, and we still want to get to where we were before Ebola struck.
Well, the conference comes amidst reports of 5 new cases of Ebola, including 1 death in Liberia, a country that had been declared Ebola-free. Now, for the very latest, VOA's Jackson Vunganyi joins us live from New York. Jackson, welcome to Africa 54.
Hi, Vincent. Thank you.
Yes. Now, we know that the conference has been called together to kind of mobilize resources to help those countries affected. How much funding are those countries actually asking for? Is it just the $3.2 billion or there's more?
Yes, Vincent, they are asking for $3.2 billion. The 3 ministers of finance from the 3 countries, Sierra Leone, Liberia, and others from the Mano River Union were here yesterday and asked for $3.2 billion. Whether they're getting it or not, we're not sure. Today, President Sirleaf of Liberia threw around the number $7.2 billion, but that's a figure that encompasses a much broader strategy for recovery. They're also asking for a suspension of some of the debt they've had from their donor countries. And, they're waiting to see. Pledging starts today afternoon, and they're hoping that they can get at least a good sum of the money they're asking for.
Now, from what you're hearing, is everybody kind of on board, kind of feeling sympathetic and understanding to those demands, or are there people who think this is unrealistic? Absolutely.
Well, like Sirleaf said, asked today, President Sirleaf asked, is that too much to ask? Well, not really, because Ebola knows no borders. And President Mugabe said in his opening remarks, he's the chairperson of the African Union, and he gave an address today. He says that, we know if Ebola affects one country, it affects all of us. And in this interconnected world that we live in, and where there's a lot of cross-border trade and migration and movement, that if Ebola affects one country, will eventually get to you. So are they asking for too much? Probably, but I think the world is concerned and anxious that this is a problem that is not just isolated to these West African countries, and that it could be at their doorstep anytime if they do not respond.
Now, who is expected to hopefully pledge some money for this particular effort? We have specific
there have been some pledges so far. The EU, which is the only economic bloc that has pledged, made their pledges public so far, has pledged over $450 billion. The World Bank is expected to make some significant pledges. So is the African Development Bank and other donor countries that are involved in this fight against Ebola.
And very quickly, the pledging just started. What time does it end today?
It probably will end around 5 p.m. today. So we'll have a much more concrete figure of how much money has been raised.
Jackson, thank you very much for your reporting.
Thank you, Vincent.
Well, viewers, Jackson Mvunganya reporting live from New York. Now, in 2 weeks, U.S. President Barack Obama will make his first trip as president to Kenya, the country of his father's birth. This will also be the first ever visit by a sitting U.S. president to the East African nation. The president will hold bilateral meetings and attend the 2015 Global Entrepreneurship Summit in Nairobi. It will be Obama's fourth trip to Kenya. He visited as a U.S. senator in 2006 and made a trip with his then fiancée, Michelle, in 1992. Obama's father, Barack Hussein Obama Sr., was born in Western Kenya. Now, so what is the significance of Obama's visit to Kenya? For that, I'm joined by Kenya's ambassador to the United States, Robinson Githai. Ambassador, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you very much, Vincent.
So if we may begin right there, what is the significance of this trip to Kenyans?
It's very significant. First, for the reason why he's coming to visit Kenya, to attend the Global Entrepreneurship Summit, which is being co-hosted by Kenya and U.S. government. And this is a very important program that tries to encourage the youth to come up with the good business ideas that can be translated into business. The future of Africa is with our youth. We need to make it possible for them to start businesses so they become employers rather than looking for blue-collar or white-collar jobs. Then they can be able to set up businesses. If they do that, then obviously they are going to create employment, and which we have is quite substantial in Africa. And even more, then they'll be able to uplift their fellow youth from poverty. So this is a very, very important global summit, and we are grateful to President Obama. He's the one who came up with this idea. I would like to say that Kenyans are ready to receive President Obama. We have made all the necessary arrangements, and I'm sure they'll be up to his liking. It's a historic visit in the sense that this is the first sitting U.S. president to visit Kenya. The former presidents who have visited Kenya after retirement. But this is the first sitting president.
There was a time that many Kenyans really worried that President Obama might finish his term, a second term actually, before visiting Kenya because of so many other issues. Now, for those who are looking into kind of trying to read in between the lines, what changed? What might have changed that made it possible for the president to come to Kenya?
Really, as far as we are concerned, there's been no change. He expressed his desire to visit Kenya. Immediately he was sworn in as president, subject to scheduling. And this is the right time, actually. For us, really, nothing has changed. He has expressed that wish a long time ago to come. And Kenyans have been expecting him. You know, in addition to historic ties between Kenya and the U.S., there's also the personal element. If we recall, one of our freedom fighters, the late Tom Mboya, in conjunction with the former president, John F. Kennedy, they're the ones who came up with this student airlift to prepare leaders, Kenyan leaders, who would then be able to take over positions of leadership after independence. Now, one of those students who came to U.S. Was President Barack Obama's father. So we also have that connection. And therefore, I think for him, is both historic and also personal.
Yes. Now, you know, recently there was a very significant ruling here in the United States at the Supreme Court regarding legalization of gay marriage in this country. And it so happened that because it's around the time the president is about to go to Kenya, there's been a lot of excitement around the country. And now the question is the government concerned that perhaps this might cause things that can result into some form of embarrassment or anything?
No, there's really no reason to be concerned. That's the position in U.S. The position in Kenya is different. The Supreme Court ruled gay marriages are legal. Our constitution still does not allow it. But again, these are two presidents. Mm-hmm. You can't prevent a president from raising issues that are of concern to him or to his country. So really, for us, it really is a non-issue.
Yeah. Because there are those who say we want the president to talk about that when it comes to Kenya, but then Kenyan politicians are saying no, don't bring this kind of conversation here. So there are those issues. Then people wonder how the government is taking this.
As I said, you can't prevent a president from raising issues.
Yeah.
So we can't prevent him. But for us, what I'm just saying is that our constitution prohibits it.
Yeah.
And for us, it really is a non-issue. Mm-hmm. I think there are more bigger subjects to talk about rather than that one. We, as I said, really this summit is targeting the youth to assist them to be able to come up with good business ideas that can be turned into businesses that can grow into these large corporations. Mm-hmm. You recall that most of the big American companies, some of them started actually in garages, and even more, we have a number of our universities who have set up incubation centers where they can monitor, they can train, and assist these young guys to turn their business ideas into business.
Yeah. Now, Ambassador, one of the other things that has been of great concern to Kenyans and people abroad, some who may want to invest, is security. Al-Shabaab just the other day again struck northeastern Kenya. What is happening to kind of reassure people who may want to come in, people in the country, that actually the country is a safe place to visit, to be in, and to invest in?
Kenya is safe. Let me assure all the people who are planning to visit Kenya, Kenya is safe. But that does not mean that we don't have a few challenges on security, particularly on with our neighbor, Somalia. You know what they say, you can choose your friends, but you can't choose your neighbor. And government has taken adequate measures to protect all the visitors who come to Kenya. Not only the visitors, even the Kenyans who are there. There have been new changes in personnel in the security ministries. In this year's budget, a lot of resources have been directed towards the police to give them good equipment, good communication equipment, good housing to increase their morale. So really everything has been taken care of. And what we are saying is that terrorism is a global problem. It's not a Kenyan problem.
Now, we know that the president is going to hold bilateral relations with the Kenyan leadership. But at the moment, if you can just tell us a little bit, what is the nature or the kind of relationship that is existing between the United States and Kenya? What are some of the specific areas in which Kenya really would like to see U.S. collaborate with it a bit more?
Well, I've got the issues that I've always raised with the White House. I've raised them with the State Department. I've raised them with every senior U.S. official I meet. The first is the travel advisories against visiting Kenya. That has a very devastating effect on our tourism. Because the moment U.S. issues this travel advisory, other countries follow. UK follows, then Germany will follow, and other European countries. We get the bulk of our tourists from Europe. So when they follow, it has very devastating effect. Our tourism has gone down by 30%. So we have been asking the US government at least to downgrade the travel advisories or to have specific areas rather than a general one. We have also asked the US government to authorize our national airline, Kenya Airways, to have direct flights here in US. If that happens, it will reduce travel time from the current 23 hours to 12 hours or 13 hours. We'll be able to bring our famous flowers here in US. You know, Kenya produces the best rose flowers in the whole world. But unfortunately, they are taken to Amsterdam for auctioning, and they lose what we call country eligibility. So now, when those flowers come here, they are no longer Kenyan, therefore the full duty is imposed. If we had our national airline coming here, then they'll be able to bring in the flowers. And even more, more American tourists would also be able to come. We did a research here and we found that...
well, we are kind of running out of time. So the other item you probably wanted to mention is, you mentioned the flower, the airline, and I think the travel advisors. I think that is key.
Yes.
We want to thank you very much. We hopefully will have you back here and we talk a little more about Kenya.
Thank you so much.
And the wonderful things we can enjoy there. Well, Ambassador Githai of Kenya, the ambassador of Kenya to the United States, thank you very much once again for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Well, we want to know what you think now about Africa 54 and the stories we covered during the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54, and check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Find me on Twitter at VOA Vince Makori. Coming up, stay with us.
How do you see the world?
I see countries in turmoil.
I see our planet changing.
I see people at peace.
No matter how you see the world, you'll get an unbiased and uncensored view of it on Voice of America. On television, radio, online, and mobile. In more than 40 languages all day, every day. Millions of people tune us in.
How do I see the world? On Voice of America.
Welcome back. Now, the United States is working with a number of other countries to fight global terrorism. And the Secretary of State for Public Diplomacy and Public Affairs, Richard Stengel, spoke to Al Hura TV at length on how that is being accomplished.
Mr. Rick Stengel, under Secretary of State for Public Diplomacy and Public Affairs, welcome to Al-Yawm Al-Hurra. First question, how would you assess Arab states' contribution to the global war on terrorism in the years, since September 11, 2001?
I think in its strange, perverse way almost, terrorism tends to unite people. And I think what happened on 9/11 was something that united people in the world against terrorism, made them realize the United States is also a victim of terrorism. And I would say that our alliances and friendships with people in the Arab world have only grown since then.
How much cooperation are you receiving from GCC government in the fight against terrorism in general?
So if we take it up to the present day against Daesh, I would say again that they have concentrated people's minds, to use an English expression, and made the GCC coordinate even better within itself and among itself than it was before. And I think it's made the relationships between the US and the GCC more powerful. We now have a common enemy, and a common enemy tends to unite people.
The rise of ISIS, how can this problem be dealt with?
Well, we're dealing with it in all kinds of ways. There is the military battlefield, where we have rolled back a lot of their advances and where the bombing raids are effective and they represent a cohesion among the partners and the Arab partners. And then there's also the information battlefield, which is the battlefield that I operate on. And I think since the rise of ISIS, or ISIL or Daesh, a year ago, there have been a lot more actors that have come into the fray. Arab countries now have mobilized their own social media, Jordan, Egypt, Saudi Arabia. And today, as you know, we launched the Sawab Center with the Emiratis, and that is a big new endeavor which I think will inspire other people in other countries to create similar centers.
We were talking about Sawab Center. What is the goal of launching this Sawab Center?
The goal of this center is it's a joint Emirati-American project that will then help coordinate among the coalition partners to create content messages that counter Daesh's social media strength and sophistication, that also present a positive alternative to that negative vision that they are presenting, and also will coordinate the messaging and content from among the coalition partners that are united against Daesh.
After the attack of Paris and Kuwait, some made it clear that U.S. could be a terrorist target. What do you think?
Well, we're all potential targets. Nobody is immune, and we saw that situation in Texas, where there was a kind of lone wolf actor, and certainly people in America are concerned that America itself could be a target, but I don't think it's quite an existential issue for America the way it is for countries in the region where it's on your border and they are advancing and they are trying to create a state. So I think that the problem is more acute here, but everybody has the problem as well. There are foreign fighters that come from the U.S. too. So it's something that everybody needs to be concerned with.
But doesn't the latest warning of a new attack in U.S. soil suggest that Washington and international community in general are failing to stop the flow of money, radical youth, and arms to terrorists?
Well, one of the ideas of the Sawab Center and what we do in terms of messaging ourselves from Washington is to try to stem the flow of foreign fighters, to if somebody is debating whether to go, tell them that the mythology of what Daesh is creating is false. The caliphate isn't a paradise. There's no plumbing, there's no electricity, there's no internet access. So some of what we do is to try to prevent people from going, and we do that in other ways as well, where we take people offline who are online, who are tweeting and messaging this content that is trying to convert people. So it's a large endeavor. We're trying to do things in a targeted way to intercept what's going on with individuals, and we try to do things in a mass way to kind of talk about the entire Ummah, the entire Muslim world, to unite against Daesh.
Will the war on terror ever be won, and how?
Well, as many have said, the war on terror is in some ways a misnomer. Terror is a technique, and in this case, it's a technique being used by Daesh or ISIL, and so I'm not involved in the war on terror. I'm involved in the war on Daesh, and I do believe that war will be won.
So we are talking about living in the shadow of terrorism for decades and not for years?
Yes, as President Obama said the other day from the Pentagon, this is a generational struggle. We have to measure it in years, not months or days, and I think it's not realistic to say that any form of terrorism will go away, or that any manifestation of Daesh or ISIL will go away. But as an acute threat, as an existential threat, as an expanding threat, that will be reversed, and it already is being reversed. And I think the coalition has come together, realizes that's necessary, and I think that is what's happening.
Some NGOs stress that the fight against terrorism should not be at the expense of human rights and international law. Are you agree? What do you think?
Well, in a democracy, there's a continuum that always exists between human rights and individual rights and privacy and security. And that balance always ebbs and flows. And I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think you can preserve human rights, you can preserve communication, you can preserve free speech, and have stability and strength at the same time. But it's always a very delicate line, and in some places people cross the line, and that's just the reality.
Well, it's time now for a short break. We'll be right back in a moment.
Position that our relationship is defined not by what the United States can do for Nigeria, but rather what the United States can do with Nigeria.
changes. The changes will come. We can change. We will get ideas from them.
Well, it's been an exciting week in sports. For all of the highlights, we turn to Sunny Young with the sunny side of sports. Sunny.
Hi, Vincent, and sporty greetings once again to our Africa 54 viewers. Here's a sunny side of sports salute to Eritrean cyclist Daniel Teklehaimanot, who pedaled past another major milestone at the Tour de France. The 26-year-old rider has already made Tour de France history as part of the first African-registered team ever to compete in cycling's most famous event. And on Thursday, Daniel made more history. He became the first African to don the polka dot jersey awarded to the race's leading climber. Daniel gave a thumbs up and a handshake and said it was a childhood dream come true, as well as a big step forward for African cycling. It also marked a big win for the South Africa-based team MTN Kubeka, which, like Daniel Teklehaimanot, is competing for the first time in the Tour de France. Celebrations and parades are taking place here in the United States for the World Cup winning U.S. women's national soccer team. Midfielder Megan Rapinoe held the World Cup trophy on top of her head Friday as the American women were treated to a ticker tape parade in New York City, where thousands of fans cheered loudly for the champions. The U.S. women won their record third World Cup title July 5th in Vancouver, Canada, where they beat defending champion Japan 5-2 in the final. The U.S. team will be traveling to different parts of the United States on its victory tour. I'm VOA Sunny Young, and that's the sunny side of sports. Vincent?
Well, thanks a lot, Sunny. And remember to watch for the sunny side of sports every Monday and Friday right here on Africa 54. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. And for more news, tune in to VOA's evening radio show, Africa News Tonight, at 1800 UTC, and in the mornings to Daybreak Africa between 0300 and 0600 UTC, Monday through Friday. Thanks a lot for watching. From all of us here in Washington, have a good night. Sunny. So I think... we are able to touch on things that are important to people on an everyday basis. Hello and welcome. I'm Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. In a lively half hour, news, sports, health, lifestyle information, comments from our viewers. Africa 54, the best for Africa, about Africa. Join us only on VOA.